What's going on, guys? Gaston right here, and today we're not going to be talking about cameras, but we're going to be talking about something related to camera and a bad experience that happened to me very recently. So I bought a MacBook right around November of last year. So I got the computer and my first impression were that the machine was basically a really upgrade from my 2015, I think, MacBook Pro that I use right now. So I was very happy until 1 week and I was actually typing and one of the arrow keys actually popped and it was the left arrow key. So I go to the Apple Store, book an appointment with a Genius Bar, get there, and they tell me that I may have to leave the computer, and I tell them that I could actually continue to use the computer because it was basically the computer that was replacing my 15, and I have a lot of stuff on that computer, so I don't want to go through backing up stuff. So I asked them if they can actually order the key and call me when the key is available. So they tell me that probably they're gonna have to replace the keyboard and just to hang on, and they're gonna call me. So another week passes by, and now the right key actually pops out of the keyboard. And I'm talking about, I'm just typing on the computer and all of a sudden the key pops, you know, and they have like a hinge. So it was actually being stuck from one hinge and the butterfly mechanism was pretty much destroyed. So I go back to the Apple Store and, you know, hoping that they were gonna take care of me, but no, they send me back home or on the computer to make an appointment. So I have to schedule an appointment for a further time. So I basically ended up working with a computer with 2 broken keys until the appointment came in and I went and brought the computer. So I get there and they tell me that basically I'm gonna have to leave the computer this time, that the key never arrived for X reasons, and now we're talking about over 2 weeks, and the key was actually, the first key was supposed to be coming really quick because apparently they had it in stock in one of the stores nearby. But again, they never called me. So the next failure happened. Now I'm here. They're telling me that if I want to get the computer repaired, I need to drop off the computer, where they could have told me that before. I decided to leave the computer there. So then we come closer to the holidays. I don't hear from Apple. We get into January, February, and then the whole coronavirus situation comes in. We are actually, all of us, in lockdown. So, I'm not going to get mad at anyone. So the whole coronavirus thing is still going on until this day, but the Apple Store actually in Miami opened, if I'm not mistaken, about 2 weeks ago. So I make an appointment and I'm like, what the hell is going on with my computer? So I go back to the store and this time they tell me that my computer had arrived, right? So I'm like, wow, what a relief. And they tell me that send me an email, and indeed they did send me an email like a few days before, but it was actually going to an old address that I don't check anymore, and I don't know why they send the email to that address because I get all my Apple stuff to my Apple address. However, I'm very happy right there picking up my new box, and I'm like, you know what, let me actually read the specs of this computer. So first of all, I gotta tell you that the computer that I got was a 16 inches MacBook Pro, maxed out with memory. I believe I had the maximum, which was, if I'm not mistaken, 64 megabytes of memory. I do a lot of rendering and CAD files, and I use Bootcamp, and a lot of those programs, require a little bit of RAM because I run a lot of programs simultaneously rendering, just to make a long story short. So 1 terabyte is actually not cutting it for me anymore. I do a lot of tethering at the studio, so I end up filling up my hard drive pretty often. So I'm like, let me go with a 2 terabyte. So basically I got maxed out configuration. The only thing that I didn't get was the, I believe it's 4 or 8 gigabyte drive. I went with a 2 gigabyte drive. So my computer ended up costing me almost $5,000.
What?
So it was $4,800, something like that. And remember, I upgrade my computers kind of like every 4 or 5 years. So, spending that kind of cash for a computer that I'm going to be using for the next 4 or 5 years kind of like makes sense because I make money with my computer. So I'm reading the specs of this brand new computer that actually came sealed in the box. And the first thing that I realized is that the processor wasn't my processor, wasn't the top of the line processor, was the standard processor. Second of all, I'm like, oh, let me see the RAM. The RAM was actually half of whatever I ordered. So it was about 32 gigabytes of RAM. And then the hard drive was a 1 terabyte of space.
Now that's a bit of a problem.
So I talked to the manager. They don't know what's going on in here. They're looking at each other and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Gaston. I'm like, but how can this happen? You guys sent me an email that is saying that the computer is ready, right? And the computer that you're trying to give me is kind of like a computer that's $2,000 less, more or less, than the computer I bought. So you're giving me a $3,000 computer for a $5,000 computer that I left with you guys around November, December. I try to keep myself together, not being angry or anything. I understand that the whole coronavirus situation happened. So basically, they give me a couple of options. It's like, look, listen, we can reorder the computer, but this is going to take like about a month or even more. Because everything that comes from China, well, first of all, everything that actually gets ordered at Apple, they're a little bit backed up. So it takes some time just because of that. Then the computer itself can take about 2 weeks just to get ready. And also, everything that comes from China to the United States gets quarantined for about 15 days. So we're talking about another month and a half without a computer. Because of that, I'm like, look, listen, I bought this computer in November. We are in June. Probably I'm not gonna get a computer until July or August. So basically, I'm already going to receive a brand new computer that I was never able to use for more than 2 weeks fully. So here I am thinking, look, listen, I pay $5,000 for a computer, almost $5,000. I gotta wait like about a month and a half, and maybe even more, who knows. And by the time I get the computer, I'm basically getting a 1-year-old computer that I wasn't even able to actually enjoy or use. Remember, this computer broke in about a week since I got it. So maybe I got a week out of that computer, fully functional. They tell me they're gonna call me back. All right, they call me back. In the meantime, they send me a survey. So in the survey, I basically outlined my issue, and I was very, very honest, not trying to sugarcoat anything. So in a couple of days after I submit my survey, they call me. And they tell me, hey, Mr. Gaston, we apologize for the delay. We want to make this right. And I'm like, okay, so what do you guys are going to do to make this right? So they tell me that they're going to talk to someone to expedite the process. And when I'm asking, so what's the process? Well, whatever you agree with the person you talk to. I'm like, I talked to the store manager, so what is the resolution? Well, whatever you talk to him. So they didn't even know that we agreed that they were gonna order the computer. Another week goes by, and I get another call from the Apple store. This time it's in relation to a computer that stopped working from my wife. And this is a MacBook 13 inches, also a computer that was probably 3 years old. We have Apple Care and the whole 9 yards, but apparently was only good for 2 years. And I brought that computer about a week before they actually called me. They sent me another survey, and I also complete a survey talking about my visit with the Apple store, the Genius Bar, and talking about that particular repair. So when they call me, I think that they are actually calling me for my computer. No, they're calling me for that 13 MacBook Pro that I brought, which they told me that they would have to replace the entire motherboard because there's a liquid damage inside the computer.
How this happened?
And the only thing they found is the sensor reactive. When there's liquid, they react to a color. Now, remember, I live in Miami, Florida. It's super humid here. And those sensor reacts to humidity because the same thing happened to my phone. The computer was never wet. And here they're telling me that my computer is basically fried, my 13 inches, and I have to get a new one.
What?
But now, let me back up a little bit because we're talking about my MacBook 16, and this video is about that computer, my 16 MacBook Pro. So I tell him, hold on one second, I appreciate that you're calling me from my wife's computer. We can address that, that needs to be addressed, but what happened with my almost $5,000 computer that I bought back in November, that I went to the Apple store several times, that you guys told me that you were gonna reorder the computer, that a person actually called me last week to tell me that they were gonna take care, and now you're talking about this, and this person flat out tells me, well, I have no clue about that case.
I'll try to control myself.
All right, so I'm starting to get a little bit impatient right here and tell them, listen, this is my computer that I bought with my hard-earned money to work. Now I have to work with my 15 inches MacBook Pro that is several years old. It's a little bit slow. It's very laggy. I struggle editing videos. I struggle doing things with the computer because I have it full with applications. So that one was actually 1 terabyte. And it goes to show that 1 terabyte doesn't get you that far these days. So I'm like, whatever, what are you gonna do for that computer? And they tell me, well, sir, I'm sorry, all I can do is talk to a manager. Another week goes by, I don't hear from nobody. I go back to the Apple store, and this time I'm like, look, listen, I'm here because I really need my computer. I wanna know what's going on. Well, you have to make an appointment. And I'm like, look, listen, at this point, I need to speak to someone right now. I was promised a lot of calls that actually never happened. And here I am, I still don't have an answer. And every time that someone calls me from the Apple store, it seems like they don't even have an answer. So they finally tell me, hold on, I'm gonna bring the manager. So the manager comes in, and it's this girl that actually talked to the very first time the Apple store opened after the pandemic shutdown. And she tells me with a very sad face, the first thing that she says is, I'm sorry, Gaston, I know that you've been struggling with this computer. So they tell me, at this point, we don't have the computer. And I understand, things are a little bit slow, don't worry, but, I just wanna know what you guys are gonna do with the computer. Where is it? When is it coming? And well, I'm like, did you guys order the computer back 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when you guys told me that they were gonna order the computer? And she says like, well, yes, I think so. I'm like, what do you mean you think so? So I told him, I need my computer as soon as possible, or I need my money back. This is going to be, by the time I get a computer, a 1-year-old computer that I'm paying a premium right now. And probably the processor and the specs probably got upgraded, throughout this time. Basically, they told me, look, listen, you're gonna have to wait, and we'll let you know when the computer comes in. We apologize, sorry that you're going through this, but this is not the first time that I actually have a very unpleasant situation with the Apple Store, with a Genius Bar. And it's a warning for you guys, if you're actually trying to pick a machine, a computer, be really careful with Apple computer. I'm an Apple boy, I'm an Apple fanboy. I have everything Apple at my house, but I think it's time for myself and my lifestyle to give a try to other brands and see if I can find something with better customer service. I don't remember having these problems with Apple for the longest, and I've been using Apple since 1992. So I've been actually using Apple my entire career as a creative, my youth, and I've never seen so many problems with Apple computers like we see it right now. So I don't know what's going on at Apple computers. If anyone at Apple sees this video, please hit me up. Let me know, when are you planning to give me my computer? Let me know if you want to refund my money, because it has been taking a lot of time, from my work, from my life, from my family. And also, it has stressed me out so much, because shelling out almost $5,000 for a computer that you're planning to use for the next 4 years, and all of a sudden that computer is nowhere to be found, and people have no clue about it at the Apple store, it gets me really, really nervous, and it gives me these unpleasant situations. And this is gonna wrap it up for today's, guys. So sorry for venting out to you guys. This channel has always been about positive things and cameras announcements and tutorials and behind the scenes, but I just gotta communicate this because I wouldn't want this to happen to one of you, because yeah, it's not nice. So guys, until then, see you later.